This document, when it's released tomorrow or Monday, will blow out of the water any idea other than the FBI was spying on the Trump campaign as early as August 16. The word Trump campaign was all over the FBI documents.
This is appalling. It's disgusting. Even as the Democrats have rushed into another farce of an impeachment.
We're learning new information about the so-called Steele dossier, which was the foundation document behind what's called Operation Crossfire Hurricane. All of this comes with less than a week left in President Trump's term.
What we're essentially getting here is a whole lot of holes filled in about the origins of the investigation into the Trump campaign's alleged ties to the Russian government.
You know, I'm trying to understand this because this matters for the safety and security of the United States. Hillary Clinton paid for Russian disinformation. They knew the subsource was a Russian contacted agent. They knew it for 10 years.
Yes.
Comey had to know. He signed 3 of the 4 FISA warrants. So they knew that the subsource was a Russian spy?
There's more coming, but what I told you last week or 10 or 12 days ago, that you would find something that would make you mad more than wiping the phones. It makes me mad that the FBI knew that the primary subsource, a single individual, was a suspected Russian agent. They used that person's work product to get a warrant against an American citizen on 4 different occasions. They never informed the court of this exculpatory evidence.
For 6 months, you were told the biggest scandal in the world was Trump colluding with the Russians to tilt the course of an American election. Now we find out that the boomerang has come back and slammed the Democrats right in the face, and the entire time the Russian connection was through the DNC and the Clinton campaign. This, I mean, you want to hear about a scandal? The FBI used fake Russian intel potentially?
Dan, this dossier was used to apparently to justify a FISA warrant to spy, monitor, the government monitors, not spies, on some members of the Trump campaign. So it's exactly what you were talking about.
And
it was paid for by the opponent, which is crazy.
When people are plotting at work to try to prevent President Trump from being president, that's a problem.
So to boil it down, the former president of the United States knew that the CIA, the FBI, and other top officials who worked for him were conspiring to sabotage a presidential candidate, undermining the democratic election process. This is huge. Remember, President Trump has been exonerated from any connection to the Russian collusion hoax. It's official. Robert Mueller couldn't find anything on Trump even after years of digging. This should be all the ammunition lawmakers need to go after everyone in the Obama camp and bring them up on criminal charges, to say nothing of conspiracy. We're talking about notes that were handwritten by Brennan and were taken after he briefed Obama on what Hillary was up to in July of 2016.
John Brennan's handwritten notes. This is pretty wild. Now, it's a little tough to read, but he cites alleged approval by Hillary Clinton on July 28th of a proposal from one of her foreign policy advisors to vilify Donald Trump by stirring up a scandal claiming interference by the Russian security services. Okay? Get all that? I know it's a little awkward to read, but I'm telling you, this is very, very important. The Central Intelligence Agency, the director of it, talking about a plan hatched by one of Hillary Clinton's foreign policy advisors to vilify, to speak ill of, to demonize Donald Trump.
In August of 2016, one of the FBI analysts working on the Flynn case texted this, quote, "Doing all this selection research, I think some of these guys want a Clinton presidency." Yeah, you think? Later, another FBI employee wrote this, quote, "Trump was right. What is wrong with these people?" The probe was so obviously corrupt that FBI officials discussed getting, quote, professional liability insurance to protect them from the consequences of the corruption. The irony, it's just unbelievable. Sean Davis has been parsing these details for years now. He's co-founder of The Federalist, and he joins us tonight to sort them out. Sean, thanks for joining us. What have we learned today?
Wow, we've learned a lot today. The first is that the corruption at the FBI and how they conducted their anti-Trump jihad was so bad that FBI agents were purchasing for themselves, using your money and my money, by the way, as taxpayers, purchasing liability insurance for when people finally found out how corrupt their activities were.
Similarly, Stefan Halper, the other informant, remember he's the guy that recorded Papadopoulos and Carter Page.
Right.
In his tasking orders, when the FBI is tasking him, my sources tell me from weeks and months of reporting on this, that he was told to spy on the Trump campaign. In fact, he was given a cover. Try to pretend you might want to get involved and get hired by the Trump campaign and then start talking to people and pump them from information. In anyone's book, that is spying. Remember, James Comey said it wasn't spying. The Democrats called it wasn't spying. This document, when it's released tomorrow or Monday, will blow out of the water any idea other than the FBI was spying on the Trump campaign as early as August 16. The word Trump campaign was all over the FBI documents.
This is appalling. It's disgusting. Even as the Democrats have rushed into another farce of an impeachment.
The only thing we were wrong about, Lou, is it was worse than we thought. They always accuse us of what they were doing. They, in fact, according to what Mr. Ratcliffe released today, they, in fact, were working with the Russians. The Clinton campaign was working with the Russians, concocting this fake story that somehow it was President Trump's campaign that was colluding with Russia, which we know was a complete hoax. So, look, with each day we learn more. The only thing we had wrong is, as I've said before, it was much worse than we originally thought.
Can we get the $32 million that was spent on the special counsel investigation back to the taxpayers? I mean, the fact that this happened, even though they knew there was nothing there, and the trust that was broken between the American people and things like, I don't know, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, which is supposed to protect people and not be used as a political weapon against political opponents that you don't like. And people are wondering, well, you asked the question, does this affect voters? Well, if Joe Biden is going to try and portray himself as someone who has a deep 40-year Washington record, he was part of the Obama administration, which carried this out. There was a meeting in the Oval Office on January 5th about these things. So, yes, it has to do with government corruption, and President Trump still portraying himself as an outsider who isn't involved in all of the corruption of D.C., which has turned into government being weaponized against conservatives and political opponents under the Obama administration, which happened multiple times in a number of ways.
Yes, if they're true, then we're talking about the use of the intelligence community for totally inappropriate reasons. And that is exactly one of the bases on which Richard Nixon was impeached, for the abuse of power, for the misuse of intelligence agencies. So it's definitely a political crime, a political offense, an abuse of power. Is it a crime in the traditional sense? That remains to be seen.
Nancy Pelosi would not be Speaker of the House today. The Democrats would not be controlling the House. We would have a more comfortable margin of Republican control in the Senate if this had not happened. Now, for future consequences for the people that did it, somebody has to go to jail over this. I don't know what they can prove or what they can convince a jury of in Washington, D.C. or Alexandria, Virginia. But somebody has to go to jail.
Somebody or a whole list, but really accountability is so important in this case. And please let me know if you disagree. But if the American people don't see consequences here, what's to say this won't happen again?
It could, because now they've done it. It's the most successful opposition research project in history. If they got away with this, they can get away with anything. If they could do it to a billionaire who became elected president of the United States, what could they do to you or to me if they turned against us?